Well, stay safe.
Oh, yeah, I'm in a house, I'm good.
Did you get
Famous
the-
last words.
Did you get the Daily Plaza
Yeah.
yet?
Say it again.
All right, we should be good to go.
All right, I will call the meeting to order at 6:41. Roll call, Cherie.
Here.
Roxanne.
Here.
Bruce.
Here.
Patty Jo.
Here.
Marge.
Here.
Katie.
Here.
Myself here. Our
Thumbs up.
district mission, together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities. Would somebody like to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda. I'll second.
Okay, so Patty Jo and Roxanne, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Public comment, Catherine.
Yeah, that'd be me. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Catherine Cranston. I live at 443 Sunrise Drive, right in the village of Somerset. And I had asked to speak and to address the agenda number 7, the district reading specialist. When I saw that on the agenda, I got kind of excited. And since I don't have a platform anymore, I thought I would utilize the public comment. And then I went on the agenda and I noticed that Trish had indicated that she is going to share some specifics and research behind the position. So I thought what I'm going to do in my couple minutes here is I wanted to share with you on the board my personal experiences with instructional coaching and this method of professional development, because I actually have seen both sides of the coin. When I was a classroom teacher for 30 years, the majority of my staff development was kind of in a workshop method, and then my district really made a significant change. They decided to bring in instructional coaches instead of outside PD. And that really made a huge difference in particularly my own training. And that I can honestly say was one of the biggest growths of my teaching career. Sitting side by side with a specialist in my own class with my own kids and co-facilitating and teaching together was really transformational for me. Very different than that old model where you go out and you go to a workshop and then you bring it back and you try and implement it all by yourself. I found that was not always the best way for me to get better at what I do. So then 2 years ago, as some of you might know, I changed positions and I came out of the classroom and I became an instructional coach. So I then was able to be on the other side of that coin and see the magic work myself. And so I really saw transformational teaching happen right before my eyes. I was able to be in classrooms modeling with this different workshop, this whole different method of professional development. So I guess I just wanted to encourage you to consider adding that valuable resource to the teacher staff, because I truly believe that people will make positive changes, and we will when we have people helping us, and they do it with us, not for us. And that's what this does. It brings experts in their field into my classroom and made me a better teacher. So I just wanted you to know that I really support this position.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
Thanks, Catherine.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, so the next item on the agenda, number 5, school board reorganization. And Tasia, you sent us some information here.
Yep, I sent out a Google Doc with some instructions and then links that will be used once we have the nominations and for each position, and then I will open the form up for the voting.
Okay. So,
Mark, need to get into that first. We just got a password.
Yeah, we
So
go.
she has it on her other email too.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so we should be good.
It's thinking about it.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's harder than I thought before.
So we're all supposed to go to that, click on that link, or not link, click on that email.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and
Google
open the
Document.
Google Doc, but if you click on any of the links that are in there right now, it's not gonna get you anything
Okay,
until I open up the form.
so are we making recommendations now?
Motions? Yeah, but we might want to wait until Marge is in.
The first time is the worst time. Very slow.
I wish you'd put something on that playbook. That's more for like policies.
Hey, Joe, she's from.
This one?
The female, that right there. I should just open it.
And then, so what she's talking about is the school board reorganization one. If you click on that,
Just open it for now.
Okay.
and you can open Google back there.
Not yet.
Wait.
Thanks. Okay, so we are to the school board reorganization. Would anybody like to make a motion?
So are we starting with president?
That's the first one she has on the list.
I would like to nominate Lori Olargen as president.
I'll second that.
Anybody else?
I would like to nominate Bruce Larson.
So who seconded your motion, Patty?
I did.
Okay.
Any others?
Did somebody second Shirley's?
I don't know if you have to second,
This one?
but is it something you're interested in, Bruce?
I mean, I'll do it.
Well, that wasn't my question.
She'll do it, and she'll put them in there, and then.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
That's
Well, I'll
the second.
Huh?
That's the second.
Yeah, yeah. Someone would like to see it, yeah.
So Katie is seconding.
I'll second it, yeah.
Okay. Any other nominations? All right, then, Tasia, do we click on the,
Give me just 1 second.
all right.
You can click the link, 'cause then once we get the link, it actually shows us names. And then she'll look at it work.
All right, so you should now be able to click on that link for the school board president and then make your selection. And then Mark, I will.
You should look at the first name.
You're funny.
If I lose, I'm blaming Rita.
Were they both spelled right?
Rigged.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like 2 years ago.
Uh-oh. And if you just wanna
Go.
report out.
Okay, it's all votes, right?
So nobody can abstain because,
Everyone has to vote, right?
No, everyone voted, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Lori's retains the presidency.
okay.
All right, so the next position is vice president, and I'd like to nominate Bruce for that position.
I second that.
Anybody else?
I'll nominate. Oh, we got Bruce on already, okay.
If there are no further nominations, I suggest we just orally cast a unanimous
Yeah.
vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Bruce, thank you for agreeing to serve as vice president. Is there a motion for the position of clerk?
I would like to hopefully nominate Roxanne. Are you?
I'm willing to do it if you're willing to teach me the ropes.
Thank you.
But I'm gonna be leaning on you.
Oh, it's
And
nothing.
I will second that nomination.
Is anybody interested in the clerk position?
Katie, are you?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I'm good.
I was gonna
I'm
say,
good.
you do such a good job.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
good.
know, that's why I'm nervous.
So. Is anybody, are you interested? Any of our new people?
I have to learn ordinance first.
So
Can we
can
cast
I
it?
ask if we will cast unanimous vote for Roxanne as clerk?
Oh,
All
maybe
in
you can say
favor?
it right.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Board treasurer,
I would like to nominate Patty Jo if she'll consider continuing to do that wonderful job.
I will if no one else wants to.
and I will second the nomination.
I'll nominate
Cherie?
Cherie, is that? Not Cherie, Cherie.
Cherie. I'll second it if you're interested. Awesome. Do either of you want to make any campaign speeches?
I would like to not, if possible, but I did not do it, so I'm like withdrawing.
Well, that's good to know, thank you. I mean, we should.
Well, we can vote now.
We can vote.
Are you ready, Tasia?
So you've done a fantastic job, but you are thinking of, you would be okay with not doing it anymore? Because you did do a fantastic job.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that ballot is open.
Don't peek at mine, Marge.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into mine.
How's this work?
We have to separate you,
I think
Yeah.
Marge might want a different seat person.
table partner. Cherie,
Switch spots.
you get the checkbook.
Congratulations.
Cherie, was it?
Yep.
All right. Easy as pie.
All right, so we are done with this portion of the meeting, or school board reorganization. So number 6 on the agenda is the employee handbook, part 4, support staff, and part 5, co-curricular staff. I met with Tasia and Jody about this. Those were pretty short sections. This is the first reading of it. Does anybody have any questions? And I believe Jody is still here. If,
Yes,
yep, there
yeah.
she is.
Were there any significant changes to?
Well, how does the, I was wondering about the stipend schedule, maybe I was looking at a small thing, so you could.
In the past, the stipend, are you talking about the schedule of when it's
Yeah.
paid? Or-
No, the actual piece.
Amounts.
It's the amount.
Yeah, in the past, it was connected with the base teacher pay, and it was a percentage. And I believe it was just last year, we had a board discussion about changing that. And it was approved by the board to change it to dollar amounts rather than connecting it to the base pay of a teacher at that time.
And that was the recommendation of Trent.
So do we have those somewhere, I guess listed somewhere?
Oh, yeah,
The
there's a link.
stipends,
Yeah.
there's a link in there where it's
Oh,
says stipend schedule, and on the tabs, we separated them out like fall, winter, spring activities, and then the last one is something we're suggesting adding so that people know when those payroll dates are.
oh, it was
based on
crossed
it.
out, so I didn't.
Yeah, so it's just gonna be a link so that if a stipend amount changes, because every now and then Trent comes to the board and says, I'd like to realign whatever,
Yep.
we don't have this whole PDF existing somewhere else. With Google, we can just update it and note like board action date by it or something. So, so that schedule, then he has been taking some time and is continuing to look at different schools around us in the Middle Border Conference and stuff and how they're aligned. And at some point, you know, the schedule may need updates and stuff because it won't automatically be updating with the base pay, but trying to align things appropriately to the activity based on the size of the program, maybe if we're adding programs, that type of stuff, so.
So Jody, the question when you were just coming in
I'm sorry.
was if there was anything big that was
Any
changed?
major changes from?
No, there, on either section, I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just,
Okay.
yep.
No, my memo kind of highlighted the two things, support staff. There's two people that should be having vacation that aren't currently having vacation, that we would like to get an adopted new schedule that matches the same as supervisory support staff. So there's one schedule for full year staff. And then, I think that was really it. There isn't too much. It's gonna look way better when we have a clean copy for the reading coming into the regular session.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. If you think of anything after the fact, send an email.
Okay.
And it will be on the May, what is it, 23rd or 24th meeting for
Those
approval?
two, yeah, to move to the final reading. And so for our two new board members, just to catch you up a little bit, our last official adopted handbook was the 2016-17 version. So we've had a big undertaking to get this current and moving forward. Our goal is to have a first reading of the entire handbook at the June work session, and then have the board adopt it for a July 1 implementation date at the second meeting in June. With that being said, we know then going forward, if there's like, oh wait, we need to amend this, do that, we would just bring it to a meeting instead of tackling this whole handbook.
Yep.
And then just send out a notice to employees saying, section blah, blah, blah has been updated, and you know, we'll have that communication, so. It'll be good,
That's stated in the beginning of the handbook also.
yeah.
So Cherie and Marge, the rest of us have had quite an advantage because we've been reading parts of this all year.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna read
Good
it.
luck.
So if you have any
Reading.
questions, call somebody.
I was gonna say, Lori, and it was Catherine, but she's no
Yeah.
longer a board member, Tasia and I have been meeting once a month trying to prepare each section to get it ready to bring to the work session. So really, I would invite anyone who wants to attend the next committee meeting of May 26th. We've said it is during the workday, but if either of you would like to come and just like go through some of it with us, The door is
Send me the
open.
information.
That's a
I'll try
good
to-
idea.
Okay, the
I
door
can-
is open.
I'll also send out the approved session, or the approved sections that we've done so far, so you don't have to go back onto agendas and find them. I'll just send them to you all in one
You can
message so
start-
you have
yeah.
easy access to them.
Yeah, because it's broke out into sections based on employment group and stuff. So. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
All right, so then the next item on the agenda, district reading specialist. Trish?
Yes. Well, we've been talking about it a little bit. It came up when we first adopted the policy that the policy committee was looking at, that had to do with the reading program and kindergarten a little while back. Realizing that we have a reading specialist in the district. We have a job description, all pretty old, and realizing that we currently don't have anyone acting or serving in that capacity. Looked at state statute, and if you read my memo that's attached, kind of give a little bit of the background and the importance of that position. We have a new ELA committee forming as we're looking at ELA resources K-5 at a very important time when we have students that are now entering. I just met with every PLC at the elementary, pre-K through grade 5. We have students that are entering our kindergarten right now who have never been in school, never walked in a school. It was really quite an eye-opener today. And I keep showing that video that I showed to you from Tom Schimmer. You know, everybody take a breath. This is a new starting spot. We're all gonna be okay. Our kids are gonna be okay. And for as much as I am trying to just calm everybody down, and we're going to embrace our students from where they are in this moment, our teachers are concerned. As we're bringing on new resources, that's a big undertaking, especially at our elementary level, because they are generalists, meaning they are teaching a lot of things to a lot of different students from varied backgrounds. So at this time, I am hoping we can support a reading specialist K-12 to make sure that we are doing the best we can for our students by building the capacity in our teachers to help implement a K-12 reading program with fidelity and support building capacity in our teachers as well to follow state statutes and so on.
So we know that it's state statute, and I did see that you spoke to the person that,
Holds a license.
right, and that person is not interested. So I think those are two key components of this discussion.
Correct.
Trish, have we talked to, I know it was brought up last time, to CISA at all about what they would offer?
CISA
For
contracts
services.
5 days. So you sign up per day for a contractual for CISA to come in and work with you to help kind of implement a reading program. That is a very kind of different, I'm not sure actually what the per day contract is. Smaller districts typically do that. They contract curriculum as well. They might contract a pupil service person as well. It is a per day contract.
So you're not as supportive of that, is what you're saying?
They would not be able to go side by side with our teachers. They wouldn't be able to be in the classroom helping to implement in a pre-K through 5 situation. They wouldn't be able to, especially bringing on a brand new curriculum, especially supporting our 612 curriculum that we currently brought on over the last year. We're in the first year of a 612 curriculum as it is now. I don't think it would do the justice that it would do to serve the number of staff that we have, compared to smaller districts that have, you know, teams of 3 I could name several districts that do those kinds of things. We certainly could look into it. I'm not certain what the cost differential would be. It wouldn't take on kind of the realm or the capacity building that Catherine spoke to help support our teachers.
So what's the reading specialist license? Last time you were throwing out numbers of like 17 and 16 and something like that. And then you cited the statute in here. Cool. I'm on that now. This doesn't have those numbers that you were talking about. So I guess, what is that has the minimum of what it is, but what does that mean, what you were saying last time, I guess?
So we have Title I teachers in the district. A Title I teacher, typically, they've changed licensing around, but typically it was a 316, ends with a 16. Those are reading teachers. Those are our folks that are servicing, our interventionists that are servicing our students. But we have 2 reading interventionists at the elementary. Those are teachers of reading. A reading specialist holds an advanced degree that's beyond that. They are teachers of teachers, so reading teachers. They hold an advanced degree that actually are supporting reading teachers. So they teach our teachers.
So that reading specialist license, that's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was wondering is, that's what?
A different certification.
Yep, I'm right,
Correct.
that's the different
Mhm.
levels of certification.
Yep.
And is that the coaching component that Catherine spoke about, that this person would have both of those skills? Would be the reading specialist able to teach other
Teachers.
teachers?
Just alongside teachers. In order to be an instructional coach, you do not have to have a reading specialist degree. Like New Richmond Care has a team of instructional coaches. Hudson has a team of instructional coaches. That's a skill set that you can be trained on how to be an instructional coach. A reading specialist is very specialized in the instruction of reading. So it would be very specialized literacy coach who would be helping with implementation of reading across our district. Very specialized skills on how we're going to implement a reading program, how are we going to help our teachers build capacity in how we teach phonemic awareness, how are we going to teach phonics, how are we going to build capacity in our teachers, in our students, building stamina, using a resource right now. There's new legislation around dyslexia. You heard all about that. We actually got some emails about that from some parents. That is brand new legislation that was just pushed through in 2019 and now is just coming through. That's also in that state statute that we need to build capacity in our teachers to support our teachers, therefore to support our students and build achievement and growth. Mhm.
Well, I think the statute was probably intended for us to have an actual reading specialist and not one in name only. So I don't think, having new curriculum, I think it'll be very important.
Timing is right.
Yeah. I still would hope to see a job description though.
We do have one currently, because we have a reading specialist, we have a current job description. I have currently, however, reached out because with the new dyslexia legislation, with some of the other components, I would like to update it.
Okay, yeah. Could you send that out to the board?
Yeah.
And I was just gonna ask, do you know if there's anyone internal that also holds this license?
Currently, we do not have anyone on staff. Besides the person I spoke to. That I'm aware of.
So, and if I was understanding Bruce, what Bruce is saying is, rather than hiring an individual, we might be able to share that service or with CISA?
CISA
So that
provides
could-
reading specialists that you could contract out, she's saying for a
Per
number of
day.
days. For a year, so you get quarter time or
15
half time, whatever, I
days.
guess you're,
And it's also, the statute says that a school district may contract with other school districts to employ
share.
a certified reading specialist on a cooperative basis.
There are not many of them out there. I mean, it's one of those hard to find positions. So in order to potentially to fill the state statute, that is something that some districts do. Mhm.
But it could be if you don't get enough help.
Right.
Do you know if there's anyone currently working here who's interested in obtaining that licensure?
I know that we potentially had someone who was working toward it, has not achieved it.
Okay.
Mhm.
this is a teacher though, correct? So we hired on the teacher. Have we looked more into, I guess, our budget? I know that was kind of the conversation last time, the direction we wanted to go, I think, with this position with our student counts or enrollment numbers and then adding another position.
I'll talk about that
Oh,
down
good.
here, so give you a little update on that.
I'm concerned about the position because since at least the 1980s, we've had a reading specialist in the district who's been half-time reading specialist and then half-time instructor. And our enrollment has been over 1,600, and now we're in the 1,400s. And we're talking about making this position full-time rather than half-time. And I just want to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible in how we are approaching this position. Maybe instead of diving into it completely, it might be a possibility to go into it more slowly by contracting out some services. We do have the staff member who is the acting reading specialist. And I know in the teacher's contract, it says that the district has the right to put you in the position in which we need you. And if there was a way to do that part-time and also engage with CISA for some extra support, because they do have support, district level consulting services in the reading area without being in the position of reading specialist.
What is, wait, say that again, I'm not following.
CISA has district level consulting services, and I'm sure Trish can talk about this as well, where you can contract with CISA for additional services to support the reading specialist that we have on staff and do some of those things like the instructional coaching and helping implement a new curriculum and help even, it talks about it in the CISA catalog that was sent out, that even help districts go through the process of choosing a new curriculum, which the elementary school is going to begin in the next year or two. So there are a lot of resources available from CISA, and if we contracted with CISA to support the reading specialist that we currently have and maybe adjust her schedule, we could be talking about a $20,000 impact on our budget versus $80,000.
So CISA right now, their consultant fee is over $900 per day. That's how much they charge me if I hire a CISA consultant per day to come in and help me with anything. Even if I ask them to come help me with implementation, it's $900 per day. So I don't use CISA consultants to do those kinds of things because I'm trained through CISA, through our network consultant to do that. So I don't usually take them up on those kinds of things because we contract through their network services to be trained in those things. So our network association, our New Richmond, St. Croix Central, Osceola, our Middle Ward, we sit through trainings, and so that I'm capable of doing those things here in order to save the district the $900 a day fee. So it's a pretty expensive service that they offer to us. I'm not certain that that's what they would charge for the reading specialist fee, but that's what they charge a per day fee for their consultant services.
And the minimum days that you can contract is 20. And so 20 days at $900 a day would be $18,000. And I guess we have, in my opinion, we have similar roles in the district already. We have Trish as a full-time curriculum instruction and assessment coordinator who, as she just said, has that training. And our principals, you know, we've talked before or have had information about how they've gone to coaching training as well, and part of their jobs is going into classrooms and observing and coaching. We have a mentorship program that we implemented several years ago, and those mentors, Trish was just talking about the training they receive to go in and work with new teachers and help them. And we have the PLCs, the professional learning committees, that also takes a role in this. So, you know, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea or that it would be bad for the district. My own personal philosophy is just that teachers and support staff who have their feet in the classrooms every single day, every year, have the biggest impact on our kids' learning. And I would hate to see us move away from classroom teachers to support a position that is more than we've ever had in the district when we have fewer kids in the district. So that's just my opinion.
But you don't want a reading specialist in a position that they don't want to do.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, that's
same thing.
that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That person is
So it's how do we go about getting that?
That's why I was
Service.
asking if we have someone that wants, I mean, if we have someone working towards that licensure already, and they're getting that extra education, or if there's multiple people, I mean, you know, if we have people that want that, it would be advantageous to the district to have someone that's already invested in the district, that's not going to, you know, that we can, or that you can help them flourish in this type of thing, especially if they're already passionate about reading specialists and that sort of stuff, because that's the big thing. And I learned under a reading specialist in Somerset, and the ones we had when I was in school were amazing. It was great. So I really feel like if we have people here that we can develop and that we can work with to obtain this licensure that we want it, that maybe that would be a route of going and then doing whatever we need to meet the statute in the meantime.
So are you thinking like we can contract for a while and give?
If we have someone that's interested in it, I mean, it just sounds like if we have people that want it, it's a position, and then that person's working toward it already, why would we just throw our hands up on them and hire someone new?
Are they qualified, and how long will it take for them to get to that? You know, being interested and being qualified can be two entirely different things. And if we had principals that had the time to go into the classroom and go side by side for training, we'd be doing that already. But I would believe that we don't have the staff that has the time to do that currently.
Isn't that part of what the principals do though?
They do that, but they are not reading specialists.
No.
This is a specialized position with specialized responsibilities as outlined per state statute. And as you heard through Catherine, this is a way to have on-the-job professional learning embedded day by day, sitting side by side with our teachers. We have had reading goals in our district for several years. We have a reading need in our district. This is something that would support each and every one of our teachers in order to support each and every one of our students. Literacy from pre-K all the way up to grade 12 is a great need, especially right now when we've got students who have had a large amount of time away from the classroom, experiencing many different trauma and needs and lack of engagement at many different levels, especially in our early childhood area. So talking about the levels of support is wonderful, from our PLCs to our mentors to our principals, but we are talking very specifically about a reading specialist in literacy right now, not about a curriculum director or PLC leaders or mentors. This is a specialized area, and it takes a special personality who can sit side by side with our youngest and our oldest and know the continuum of learning.
But the way to make this work is to drop an elementary school teacher, make our classrooms sizes bigger, and so we can fund this position, correct? Like that's what we were talking about?
There's many ways to make it work. And that's why I recommended having a staffing retreat to get basic philosophy of how we're going to spend our resources, because our numbers are the lowest they've been in a long time. And, yeah, there's options there. Again, you know, I'll talk a little bit about ESSER money and things like that. You know, from what my position on it is, from the need from the state, from statute side, just what Tricia's mentioned here about the need in the classrooms, we need this position. And a lot of it has to do, you know, when you talk about internal people, what have you, you know, if they have the passion for it and they have the skill set, bring them on. You know, but again, just because someone possesses a license or they're working towards a license, doesn't mean they're gonna be the best candidate for the job.
Oh, I get that completely, but I also feel like if this is a time where the children are having those traumas and the stuff that you're talking about, putting more kids in the classroom is gonna, not the greatest idea either, in order to fund it, is more what I was going to say. Just really more kids there might be a little much too, you know, so where's the balance there?
So will you have more information for us before our next meeting?
What information would you like?
Well, like ESSER dollars for one, and perhaps we could have that retreat before our next regular session so that you can tell us more, or we can talk more about our philosophy of staffing. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, and I can put you out some documentation just on class size, projected class sizes, and just some recommendations. You can take a look at it, and, you know, then we can schedule a work session around that, or we can have some discussion, you know, either a retreat or at a work session. Pardon?
Can we also do like the current job description and then the proposed job description? Because it sounds like they're not the same from what you're envisioning versus what's going on. So could we get that? Sure. See how they are?
I was looking at the memo, I mean, didn't the,
Job description is basically right
yeah, I was gonna say,
Mhm.
I mean, you didn't say it
Right.
was, but in my mind, it'd be 1, 2, and 3,
Right.
right?
Right. As outlined in state statute.
You have recommendation, and then you have reading instruction, 1, 2, and 3.
I feel like reading through the licensure requirements, so it's actually more than that, like, because it gives more details and what, so that's why I'm asking.
It's not like, we don't have a choice.
Right, totally,
Well,
totally.
yeah.
I'm more going, like, you're right, statute, we have to have it, and it should be someone who's passionate about it.
And not name only.
I'm more looking at the half-time versus full-time.
Yeah.
Towards it,
And I
because
get
it's
that.
really hard for, that's what I'm having the problem with. So I am on board with the position 100%, so.
I'd like to address the halftime issue. We tried several years ago when we brought on the ELA resource the first time. By having the person who has the title, we were able to release her halftime, and she tried to work in this capacity. It was nearly impossible, because she was trying to do a classroom halftime, prep for that classroom halftime. It gave her this much time to be working with teachers who are only available this much time because they have prep and lunch and other things to do then too. So for her to work with teachers, it gave her this many teachers who were available during that amount of time that she was also available in order to work side by side. So it gave her a scope that was this big to try to make an impact. It was limited at best with no flexibility. She couldn't get from here to there for that much time for who had prep during that little period of window. So the flexibility that it gave her to support reading was ridiculous, and the impact was very minimal at best. You really need to have flexibility so that person can be available, adaptable, there to support and to model, because that's the other piece. They need to be able to model in classrooms where other teachers can come and see it done kind of in a fishbowl, where you're seeing instruction at its finest with other teachers being able to come and see that instruction being had, as well as working side by side with another teacher. So to have that flexibility, you can't just have an hour and a half or 75 minutes that are available for instruction because you're prepping for your own other half of the day. It really is limiting to any kind of impact. And if you're going to talk about impact with student achievement and reading instruction and being able to evaluate a K-12 program, which is what state statute says, and if you're going to be able to have implementation and fidelity of implementation in a K-12 program, you cannot limit that position for so many contract days from an outsider coming in or to a half a day and think that we're going to be able to really see movement and really give it the shot that it needs. So please consider what Catherine said as we sway to that, as other districts have moved to instructional coaches, as other districts have moved to this model of job-embedded professional development. This will be our first shot in order to move to this kind of professional, job-embedded professional development for our teachers and ultimately for our students. Because that person would be working for students in classrooms by supporting our teachers in classrooms. I'm excited about it. I think it's the perfect timing, both with what our kids have been through and what our teachers have been through, and with our first year of ELA adoption 612, and us starting the process right now. I just met with every PLC for K-5 adoption. And our pre-K teachers are getting brand new standards as well. It's supposed to be out in January, but DPI is also behind with everything that's been going on, so those should be rolling out soon too. So, thank you.
This is our last report card, right?
That is old.
Yeah, it's old, but it's the
Very,
last
very
one on here,
old.
right?
Mhm. Yeah, they rolled out a preview report card this year that is whole new format that is really looking at value added. It's looking at the bottom 25% of our students, not just by kind of separated groups, but looking at the bottom 25 and then watching that bottom 25 and how we're impacting their achievement each year. So we'll see that coming out this fall. Mhm. We use that to write goals every year, and our goals have always been about, well, lately have been about with reading. So it's the best way to impact that as well.
Trish, do you have any data to support the use of an instructional coach as to the impact that it actually has on student scores? You know, I read your document and I went to DPI, and the DPI information is about what kind of person or what the job is like to be the reading specialist. But I haven't been able to find any actual data on how it improves student achievement.
I'm not certain about student scores. I know it's about implementation and fidelity of implementation, which is what impacts, like it's what that state statute is written about. A reading
Well,
specialist
if
for
you're sending out
implementation.
some information about the job description, if you have access to any,
I'll take a
data
look.
like that, I'd sure like to see it.
See what I can find?
Thank you.
You bet.
Tasia, do you know when our next meeting is?
May 24th.
It's the 24th, so we have 2 Mondays until then.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like we need to have a retreat to go through some things, Mark, to kind of.
Yeah, and we could
suggestions.
do it before, or if we short suit a meeting, have it after.
I just wondering if we do another Monday night.
Or if you do another Monday.
Everybody Get in for an hour and we go through something. I don't know.
I would be in favor of doing it on a separate night. When we've tried to do things
Yeah.
on the same night, we
If
often
it's
run
too
into
long.
trouble.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Do any of the rest of you have a preference as to May 10th or May 17th? Those are the next 2 Mondays.
Well, I think we should give them
This
time
is
to
a-
get some stuff together.
Calendar only.
Yeah.
I mean, that would give them enough time to get stuff out to us.
May 17th.
I'd go-
And then us to look at it
Is that better
before.
for you?
Yeah.
Would the 17th work?
May 10th is better for me. But I can make the 17th work if that's all right.
Cherie, is there a time that would make a difference for you on the 17th?
I can make it happen.
6 or later, is that okay?
6:30?
Thursday
normal?
would be fine.
Is that all right with you? Okay, Mark, how about you?
That's, either one's fine.
Patty?
That's fine with me.
Bruce? Katie?
No, forget it.
Mark? Mark? So you said a staffing retreat?
So the two things I'd like to talk about is staffing and compensation. Just two items on there. And again, part of the staffing piece is because we have a bubble going through the high school, and we have a lot of needs there. So we're seeing the top end getting crunched, and we're losing students down here. So some type of philosophy of how do we squeeze a water balloon, so to speak, and fill the needs.
Wait, when you say compensation, what were you referring to?
Well, a philosophy of compensation, we talk about gap model and where we're going, just so we understand what the gap is, because there's a couple different
You wanna do
philosophies
this
of
in
gap.
2 weeks?
What's that?
You wanna do this in 2 weeks, starting at 6:30 at night?
Well, again, just like, we can always continue it if we need to, but I think we need to find out where we're going with compensation as we, we're already going into next year, and we haven't talked about next year.
I totally agree with that, but I was hoping we could do that starting in June sometime, not right in May, when we just finished this last year's. And the reason is because it's a longer conversation to have. And sometimes it's better on a Saturday. We've had them on Saturdays before.
Okay.
Or,
That's fine, but the staffing one, I think we really need to talk about.
I agree.
So if we just want to leave it at that, that's fine.
And the other thing is, would we have current data available?
Well, that's what we
by
talk about here a little. We're
17th?
jumping ahead of my
Right.
items here.
Sorry.
so-
Well, I just wanted to.
Sure,
yeah.
no. But if we can do the staffing on
So May 17th.
17th,
At 6:30 in this office?
sure.
Does that, everybody's good?
Mhm.
All right.
You send out a wonderful invite, please, Katie.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is budget information from Dave. I can hardly wait to hear what you have to say. I've been looking at your document for days.
Thanks, Lori. I'm Dave Gerberding, the business manager for the new board members who I have not yet. Hello. So I wanted to just, you're referencing the starkness of the memo. That's our new memo format that we decided to start using. But in this case, I wanted to provide some information, prep new board members and the entire board in this unusual year for the types of discussion, the types of action that we'll have at the next few board meetings. And this is a busy time of year in any year, but it's been especially so this year. So if you click on the document for me, Teja? And then the link just right there. So this is the business services homepage. In prior years, I have given a process presentation to the whole board. I have discussed it individually with board members as well. I wanted to get a sense of, are people interested in reviewing this either in a one-on-one small group or as an entire board presentation where, if I can scroll on this one or not, yeah. Where I just, in general, go through what are all the reports, what do you see on a monthly basis, what do you see on a quarterly basis, what do we talk about, what are the steps throughout the year that we go through when we talk about school district finance. Just as a kind of a primer for the work that we do, and especially the work upcoming. So that is something I wanted to get a sense of. I also wanted to just mentioned, this is where you find a lot of our information from business services, operations. There's a lot of financial reports that we update on an ongoing basis. And this is also had a little refresher lately where we have our audits, our DPI reports where we have our budget at the beginning, our what happened, the annual report at the end of the year. We have our budget hearing annual meeting packets, the budget to actual reports. Have the one through March of this year in there now. And you can click on any of them and see what, they're all there throughout the years. But a lot of information under each person within the department as well, and what they focus on in their job. So there's information there. I wanted to get a sense of, as far as are people interested in reviewing and refreshing this, either in a big group or a small group, or not at all. And then using this to prep for a couple of things that come up. Generally in June, we approve our preliminary budget for the next fiscal year, even though we don't approve the final budget until October and set the levy then for that year. I would like to do a budget amendment for this current year, which is an official thing where we vote on it as an action item at the school board. And then I revise the report that I submitted to DPI, the budget report for this school year. And we've only done that once previously in the time I was here when we had a large insurance claim revenue during the year. But in this case, we did do a fair amount with compensation. You are aware that we have a lot of COVID expenditures. We have reduced some. I'd like to update those budgets as well. Notably, we reduced some positions with Blue Ribbon that we thought we needed the whole year, and we haven't had to have the whole year, as an example. So compensation, the COVID, and then we got the small amount of ESSER 1 revenue. CISA has told me that we will be getting the first portion of ESSER 2 funds yet this year, but the second portion not this year. So I would like to update for that first portion of that revenue as well. So there's some big items. We knew we had a very unique and variable budget year this year, and we've seen that play out. And so as we're getting towards the end of the year, I'd like to update it so that not only do our reports and what we see in Skyward line up better, but also DPI appreciates that when we do that, because they use our budget reports usually mid-June or so to estimate what district's financial aid is going to be for the following year, because it's based on expenditure in the current year. So they do appreciate when we do that as well. So right now I'm thinking budget amendment by the end of May or early June, if you have a preference. I'd shoot for end of May. And then, like I said, we'll be talking again. Some of these things, some of the things like the staffing discussion that you were just talking about will obviously and certainly play into the budget, the 21-22 budget. That being said, when we talk about it now and in June, we talk about it as we stand. And so if there's no decision on a reading specialist, for instance, we go with where we're at. And we know, okay, if we're going to add CISA, it's an estimated amount. If we're going to add a staff member, it's an estimated amount. If we're going to do an attrition situation, we know what that is. So there's a lot of ongoing discussion, and we take stock essentially in June. So all that being said, any feedback on the ins and outs of school finance and that kind of meeting or discussion or what have you?
When I became a board member last year, I really appreciated sitting down with you and we went through all these reports together, you answered all my questions. I thought it was a really good way for me to be introduced to all these different reports. I thought that was super helpful. And the same thing with Jody, I sat down with her on the compensation piece and learning about the steps and lanes and everything for compensation questions. So for me, it was super helpful to have a one-on-one with you and then again with Jody. That just was super helpful. You answered all my questions, and I thought it was a great way to learn as much as I could in one meeting about the budget.
It was really nice to have that back and forth discussion.
I wouldn't be opposed to having it at a full board meeting. You know, I call you pretty often, especially when the quarterly reports are coming out, just because having that dialogue is very helpful. But it takes a long time. So if the rest of the board were interested, or maybe even a few of us, if you would like to have a special session so that anyone who wanted to, if you wanted to do it in a group, that would save some of Dave's time rather than meeting one-on-one.
If we did that, I would probably even attend again, just because there's always room for learning.
And sometimes
various
you
reports.
pick up more the second time, yeah.
I would love to.
So when would be a good time to do that? Should we?
Would that be a summer thing, because you have end of year reporting that you need to be working on right now, or?
Any time works. You know, this is talking about just our kind of everyday life for me.
Would it be better for you to do it in May or in June? Or July?
Truly any of those. It's, like I said, I'll go through I'll go through this document. It's essentially a presentation where it's, you know, somewhat sparse in the words, but I talk about what everything means. I haven't updated that exact presentation for the screenshots, so the screenshots are a little different now. But nonetheless, I think it can still be pretty clear how things work, and these are the examples, and especially the reports that you see on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. You know, tying that all together kind of, to me, makes a lot of sense. So I don't need to go in and specifically update every single screenshot at this point. I think we can have a useful discussion as it is, which is to say, at any point.
Would anybody be interested in doing this next Monday on the 10th?
Oh, that's a lot of Mondays.
No. I like the June,
Yeah.
just because it's kind of right before we're gonna look into approving the next year's budget, so I would be fresh in everybody's mind that, you know, this is what we're seeing right before we're gonna vote to approve because I know that was a big question I had early on too, was we're approving this, we don't even know, and I think, again, I did a one-on-one stopping David on this a couple times to get a better handle on this.
And that's a great point. I've heard that comment over the years. You know, at this point in the year, we're really busy, and we have often new board members, and without being aware of the whole year-long process, it can be kind of jarring to say, well, we're approving the budget for next year, and at the same time, you know, it's not the finished product at that point, but still, this is a big step, and I maybe just got here, and what goes into this, and so I think, you know, that's a good idea, Bruce.
And you'll be over budget.
And can we be over budget?
And we'll be over budget.
So Bruce, do you want to get out your phone and look at your calendar and?
Can I too?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I think Dave is saying that if you want to come in and talk to him about the
Well,
monthly
we should,
stuff.
we should probably
Would you have some-
finalize our board meeting for June,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
before we set up.
So maybe we can come back to this?
Well, the,
Maybe it's
sorry,
a-
the June dates are already set. The
Oh,
new
yeah.
schedule will start July.
July.
Yep.
So right now, we have a meeting on the 7th and the 21st, and it wouldn't have to be on a Monday, I suppose. I just threw that out there the first time because that's when our board meetings are, and so I thought it might be more convenient for people, but if you want to do a different night, I don't know if it matters. Does it matter to you, Dave?
Pretty flexible in the evening.
Would it be possible to do it before a board meeting? Like the, I don't know, do you think an hour, Dave, or do you think more?
It depends on the questions, you know,
Yeah.
me just presenting, it wouldn't take that long.
I mean, like, if we started at 5:30, I don't even know, because I know you, I don't know if you'd be coming, but you drive far. I don't know if you'd make it.
Work from home for.
Oh, do you? Sorry.
That means awesome.
If we just wanted to knock it out in one night.
Do you have a preference, Marge?
I'm off on Mondays and Tuesdays.
So Mondays and Tuesdays work well for you? Sheree?
Yeah, Monday the 10th, or the, right before our, on the 7th would work great.
So what time would work for people?
Do 5:30?
I think so.
And then,
And then is there extra
we can always
questions?
schedule another one if we don't.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And people, you know, like you said, Laura, you call, if people want to sit one-on-one too, in addition, or what have you, if you have a question, you know, I'm always available.
All right,
Yeah.
so 5:30 on Monday, June 7th, for anybody who is interested.
Can, is this it for this one?
Unless you want to add.
No.
Dave, is there anything else you'd like to?
Not at this time, I think maybe, like I said, we'll have a few things coming up, and I'll be talking about those as well, as we progress.
Well, and you'll be back for May 24th for an amendment to the budget?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Can I just quick circle back to 07?
Sure.
I think we just kind of ended that. I think maybe Mark's gonna hit on more, but when I hear out of that one, is that we were looking for a job description from Mark and Trish, or,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm guessing that's reviewing staffing in general at the retreat. And then on the 24th, is this coming back on the 24th to post this position, or would we?
Whatever we decide.
Post it on at the retreat, we would say, yes, we're posting. So right now, we're not posting this, is that there's no, it's not on for an action item, so it's something we'll wait and get, and then we'll vote possibly on the 24th or after the retreat. for
Typically, it would be
How we
on
want to handle this
24th.
position.
I don't think I mean, we come to some consensus in a retreat, but we typically don't make motions or take action in a retreat because it's not a publicly posted, I mean, it's posted, but it's not a formal meeting.
But it'll be coming back for the 24th to vote.
Correct.
Is that all right, Trish?
Yes, sir.
Doesn't sound like it.
Well, it's just, it's
What
the
are you
process.
looking for, I guess?
It's the process. It's just such a specialty spot, like we talked about last month and we talked about before, and, you know, it's just tricky spot. It's a tricky position to find a person for. So it's just an internal concern of being sure we find, because it's a skill set, it's a license, and it's a personality. It's a trifecta. To work alongside another professional colleague with the right license, with the right skill set. So it's just the longer you know that you wait on any position that is so crucial, the harder it is, and it is what it is though, it's a process that we follow. So, just a concern.
Mark?
Yeah. I think we need this position, I want this position, but I want to know how we're going to pay for it first. And we need to have this discussion, because again, we've got these bubbles going through, and we have to agree on how we're going to handle this. And again, there's a number of ways, we'll talk a little bit about this, on money we could use, but I struggle when our enrollment's going up here, adding more bodies. I just do. And again, this is a specialized position, statute says we should have it. So I'm to the point where we need to get it, but we need to have a larger discussion because there's other needs in the district too. So just want to say that.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so the next, unless there's any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, Trish, thank you, Dave.
Say, Dave, you stick around for this other piece if you want to have anything to add, what I'm going to go through after the calendar.
I think the answer was yes, sir.
Did he say yes, sir?
No.
No respect.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the school board meeting schedule. And Tasia has prepared a document that has 3 columns. And so of course, when I went through it, I picked options from all 3. Did anybody else do that?
I think the closest one, just to jump out to start it, was B with an adjustment to the December meeting.
That's what I was thinking too.
That was the closest one. I sure do like having the first Monday. That always seems to be.
Are you saying no?
No, I was just, when Bruce was done, I was gonna make another comment that I meant to add on here, but I didn't.
Tasia, can you pull that
Yes.
document up on the board, please?
I just have to say, if we go with B, I'm expecting presents, because it's my birthday on July 12th. So, I'm spending my birthday here.
The other thing was in March, because of spring break,
Right.
so for option B, I would also say that, well, I think regardless, in March, the best options would be a 7/14. I know that might put meetings right in a row, but it would eliminate the spring break,
Yes.
having to post over spring break or have the meeting over spring break.
Oh, gotcha.
So that was just a little piece I wanted to.
With only one
Yeah.
week in between.
In B, it's having the meeting right after spring break, and that's what we did this year, and there were problems.
Yeah.
So I would definitely agree with Tasia with the March one, having it be the 7th and the 14th.
And December
Mark?
6th and the 20th?
In your experience, does it matter? Did you like having it on the first Monday? Does it make a difference?
No, that's fine, either first, third, or second and fourth. I've had it either ways, but if preference is first and third, that's fine. Didn't we move our March meeting back a week after? Because
Yeah,
we came back,
but even, it was the Monday right after we.
then we had 2 in a row, yeah.
No, that was, well, maybe, I don't
I
remember.
think we did have 2 in a row.
I think we did.
The December.
So it was
Can we
December
talk
20th.
about each month, or do you want to do the whole thing at once, or how do you want to proceed here?
Can I make a motion?
If you'd like.
I make a motion to adopt option B with the revisions of, in December 2021, work session be held on December 6th, regular session on December 20th, and March of 2022, work session be held on March 7th, regular session be held on March 14th.
Sounds good. I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Katie, a second by Roxanne.
Are there any other things you see in there, Lori, that?
I'm looking.
What about how does the terming work? Because this technically would have the work session and the regular session in April after the
Election.
election.
Oh,
Does that matter?
What do you mean?
you can be sworn in anytime after the election, but you must be sworn in by the fourth Monday in April. So
We could
if
start at the
we
work session?
did the B column, where the work session and regular session were after the election, then you are correct, we would have to swear in
The business meeting.
the people at the, now, hang on a second.
The
We already
25th is
had-
still the fourth Monday.
Oh, so.
Yeah, we already had,
It's fine.
yeah, Bob and Catherine were here after the election for the work session.
Yep,
And
it's totally
the,
fine.
and it was after the election.
The work session was? too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the works, yeah, that's no problem.
Okay.
It'd be the same as we did this year.
That was so long ago.
All right, are there any other questions or comments?
Can we talk about start times, just to make sure everybody's good with the start time?
Sure.
I know it's not on the calendar, but we have talked about it pretty much every year, every time we do the calendar. So I don't know if people want to stick with the 6:30 start time.
I know you guys did 6 until I came on, because I was driving from St. Paul. I don't have a commute anymore, but you drive.
Well, Catherine had hockey too.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, so there's no hockey anymore. So, I don't have it, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't have a problem getting here by 6, but there could be a problem in the winter. That's the only issue. But I'm willing to try it. If everyone wants to do 6.
It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Let's go 6.
And it's okay if you come to a meeting late, Roxanne.
you can be tardy.
It's a little nicer on district staff though. You know,
Oh, good.
6
Well, then
o'clock.
that makes sense to me too.
Not for us that don't have a life, but some of these people with kids.
All
Are
right,
you
so.
saying you want to move them?
Go ahead.
I wasn't making a suggestion, I was just inquiring, but.
So the motion is option B with the exceptions of December and March.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? All right, then all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And would you like to start? Can we start? Or do we have to wait until July?
July 1.
To start our 6 o'clock meeting, starting in July?
Yep.
Okay,
Do we have to, or if we post them at 6 o'clock, are we fine?
Well, the calendar's already set for this year.
Oh, it
Let's
is.
just wait. Yeah.
It is.
okay then. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's update.
Yeah, I'll go fairly quick through this. At our last meeting, or a couple meetings ago, I said I would give you some updates on these 3 topics here. And I just asked Dave to stick around just in case my numbers are off a little bit. But the ESSER funding, and Dave just alluded to it a little bit here. You know, on ESSER 1, I think in the bank already, we have, what was it, 36,000, Dave, from ESSER 1. And then ESSER 2, our base is 143,000, but we possibly could see up to 350. This is the dollars that they were messing around with the stay open days. And this is getting diluted due to some political stuff that's going on here, so we'll keep you posted on that, but we still don't have any 100% firm base on what we're going to get here. ESSER 3 is gonna give us a base of about 320,000, and that could go up to 600,000, again, depending on the politics of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and where we're at, so, again, you know, budget, staffing, what have you, reducing our COVID expenditures from last year, because remember, we had roughly 800 to $1 million in COVID expenses, and we still haven't narrowed that down to exactly how that's going to shrink, but that will come into the staffing conversation also. So again, the ESSER piece is just still kind of hanging out there, and it drives Dave nuts a little bit because, this is general fund money, and how do we budget for it? And even ESSER 2 and 3, we won't see in this fiscal year. It'll be, I believe, next fiscal year, Dave, we're looking at somewhere in the fall for the ESSER $2.
That second portion, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the update on the ESSER piece. On the health insurance
Just a
front.
minute, before you go on to the next
okay.
piece, can I ask a
Yeah,
couple questions
sure.
about ESSER? So we still don't know what our ESSER $2 are yet. And it's a very large variance.
Well, we know
We know the minimum.
We know the base is 143, I
the
believe.
140 that Mark referenced to is the portion calculated along the Title I calculation. So that will not change. But the second portion where the DPI proposed bring every district up to a $395 per pupil, where we would have gotten
50.
430,000 more. That's going to be diluted because it was changed by the Joint Finance Committee to be based on a calculation of where and how many minutes were you in school. And it's just going to be diluted for us, even though we were kind of the model district for that in person, because of the 72 districts, many of them were closer to the 395 per member to start with, whereas we were not. And so now it's just diluted by count rather than by how close you were to that amount. So the point is, it's going to be less than the DPI proposed amount, but we don't know yet, and they haven't given us that final calculation yet.
So are you saying that we are getting 143,000 this fiscal year?
I asked CISA explicitly that, and they said yes.
And
So yes, we
we'll
can
be
claim that for
getting
this year.
more next fiscal year, we just don't know how much yet.
Correct, yes, from ESSER 2.
Yes, and then ESSER 3 will be getting some of the money or all of the money next fiscal year?
That will all be next fiscal year, as far as I understand it. And again, that base is just it's 320,000. That's the Title I base calculation. That's the minimum for every district. And DPI's proposal to Joint Finance was bump that up for districts that are below 600,000, so every district gets at least 600,000. That's the proposal. I have not heard yet what the Joint Finance plan might be for that.
Because, and maybe this doesn't have to do with, I don't know, I heard something from DPI or the legislature that we might be getting some of this money in the 22-23 school year. Have you heard anything about that?
I had not heard that there may be a delay, but I had heard that we can
Expend it.
spend it over the next 2 years.
Okay.
That's what I gathered,
So
was the
the
expenditure
spending
of it.
could be
Yep.
through the 22-23 year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then it doesn't really go into Fund 10, it goes into our fund balance.
Which is essentially a snapshot of what Fund 10 is doing.
Okay.
So it's a matter of timing for when we would claim it. And that really comes into play for some of the districts that have within their Title I calculation, they have a much higher Title I poverty rate, so they get significantly larger dollars, even though there's districts that get $2 million in their base calculation that are our size. So, it varies greatly. And so those districts may say, we're not going to spend all that money this 1 year, whereas we may decide to do so. And if we don't, like you said, it remains in Fund 10 for use in the future.
Okay. Did you, by any chance, check into using ESSER money for the PA system for an outdoor graduation?
Can't do it.
Oh, you And it's a
I
for
think
sure
Dave,
no.
you checked it, we can't do it.
Okay, and the other thing, I keep getting all these emails from vendors. I think it's because of the WASB convention. But there's, I keep getting these emails about COVID testing. And I understand that some colleges next year are using some ESSER money for COVID testing 2 times weekly for staff and students.
Yeah, the general consensus, we've talked about this at the NBC meetings and that, and the general consensus, no one's even going near that, you know, as far as us testing, the school district testing people. There just isn't any interest in doing that.
Would that, I hope that interest would change depending on the circumstances.
Well,
I,
again, then the testing's on our back,
yeah.
you know, and that's more staff time. You know, right now, you know, we've done okay. We've done good here so far. I would not recommend jumping into our own testing at this point in time.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
So that gives you a little snapshot of ESSER. The other piece I want to talk about, just a little bit, is status of health insurance and where we're at right now. So Dave's been working with JA Counter on firming up some numbers, and what we're looking at is sometime in late July, early June, being able to come to the board and saying, you know, here's our options. We just don't have all the answers yet that they're working on for the different plan amounts and what have you, just so you know that expect towards the end of June, I think is a fair assessment. We want to open up the enrollment August 1st. So again, you know, we know we're headed for a big increase, but there may be some things with deductibles and that we can play with, but Dave's working on getting that information there. The last thing I wanted to, that I said I would have a conversation, Jody and I talked a bit about this, about down the road with the gap situation. If, again, we get into the situation where we want to pursue more of that, you know, every time we have her do a calculation, it takes her about a week to run all the numbers, because this information just isn't sitting there. So what I would suggest, and again, we can talk about this at a compensation philosophy retreat, what have you, if we're going to move in that direction where you're going to close that gap, I would suggest that we look at some type of scenario where we take each person that's eligible, determine what that gap is, and then align it with an average step increase. And so one person may have a step in, you know, the gap would be equal to 2 or 3 step increases. Then each year you could just either assign another step increase rather than running all the calculations, and work it through step increases rather than dollar amounts would get people off the schedule. So it's just a strategy. We talked about that. That might be the easiest thing. But again, that's down the road. We can talk about it at compensation retreat. So that's all I have on those 3 items that I said I'd bring some information back. But several of these, we'll just keep talking about them as we get more information, especially with ESSER and healthcare, because those are going to be 2 drivers of our budget.
Did anybody else have any questions or comments regarding any of these items? All right, then the next item on the agenda is policy updates. There are 5. There were 7 of them in the Neola update, but 2 of them the committee is recommending not to adopt. They were optional, and we have more than enough policies to keep us busy. There weren't really any big items in them. There is
Thanks, Dave.
a correction that needs to be made on, I think it was 9700. In the attachment to the agenda, inadvertently, the very last part, the very last line of the policy was cut off. And Tasia already knows about that, and will have that fixed for the next meeting, but it just says, it's in the document that I sent to you in the email on April 24th or whatever that was. But it just says, distribution of surveys and questionnaires to students is governed by policy 2416. And the name of that policy is student privacy and parental access to information. And it was mislabeled in the draft. Did anybody have any questions or comments about any of the 5 policies? No? So this is a first reading. They'll come back for a second reading. The policy committee did have a discussion on policy 5517.01, the bullying policy. It was a couple weeks ago. Do you guys remember? We talked about asking, you know how we have right now our personnel tracking and our enrollment tracking Excel spreadsheets? We were wondering
Yes.
if it would be possible, because I know you guys keep track of all this data anyway, would it be possible that the board on a monthly basis could also have a monthly update, a tracking sheet of how many incidents there are? And we were wondering about the 3 categories. So a tracking and reporting of how many instances of harassment, how many of discrimination, and how many incidents of bullying per building.
And we're supposed to apparently get this, how do we know if the mitigation efforts we're trying to do are even effective? So thought it would be a great idea to get some, get some data, because we're supposed to be data driven. So,
Monthly, you're asking for this?
yeah, because what good is it gonna do you yearly?
Well, I
And if they just throw, it should not be a big deal any more than it's,
Well, let me see what's possible here.
Yeah.
I'll put it on our administrative agenda this week and
and I'm sure Addie probably already has,
well, she goes through-
statistics.
It's not this.
I'm sure it's somewhere.
Yeah.
I personally don't know where, but
Yeah.
I know the data is there, so
Yeah.
just let me find out. I'll put this on our agenda.
We just honestly thought it'd be easier if it was monthly, because then they can just get used to doing it, and we wouldn't have to remember once a year.
And it could just be on a Excel spreadsheet like our personnel tracking is and our
Yeah.
enrollment tracking is.
Well, it can be like our enrollment.
Yeah.
Totally, and the idea behind it is a lot of our goals and stuff is about bullying and what we're doing towards it. So this gives us numbers, so then we can see that what is going on is working, and see if there's anything that we can help do better if it's not. And see if there's any trends and stuff, just like we have for the tracking the numbers, and then we actually have data to provide a test, because it's supposed to be, in the policy, you'll see we're supposed to get a report. So this will just be an ongoing thing, so then especially now, we can be updated on what's going on, just like the other ones, so.
And how often were you thinking?
Well, they do the monthly tracking of the
Enrollment.
enrollment, and we just thought, add this to it. And if they could break it down by grade, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know, however they want to
You
do
know what,
it.
I'll see how far we can drill down.
Yeah.
And, data like this here is very good for internal use, but trying to compare to other districts doesn't work because everyone records things.
I'm talking just for us.
I know, but I'm just saying, sometimes we get data and how are other districts, how do we compare?
Well, this
And-
would not be.
I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that sometimes data is gathered differently at different criteria in other districts, so our counts,
Yeah.
one might look high here, very low there, and, oh, what's happening? Well, our trend is this, so.
Yeah, I'd just like to see our trend,
And
to
it would
see
be
what we're doing.
specific to the policy, not anything else, not
No.
here saying that this
Nope.
legit, the stuff that has actually been reported, and the stuff that meets the policy.
And Mark, please provide some feedback on this, just because I don't, we sit here and I see it from a senior leadership level sometimes. You bring these things for people to do that, it's just another, it's not a big deal, this would be valuable, but this is just another thing that we're adding now monthly, that making our administrators do, that's taking time away from stuff they're doing in their schools. So I'm just, not that this is not good data, I'm not saying that at all, I'm just saying, just let's caution ourselves, the things that we keep just saying, well, can we get this one report? Well, we already do this, can we get that? I just, monthly, if it's not a big deal, then fine, but if it's something that's gonna add stress or more, that takes away from what they're doing daily, I think it's a quarterly or just not enough.
Let me find out.
And it isn't, it says records will be maintained on the number and types of reports made and sanctions imposed for the incidents of violations. So it's already in policy to be tracked, so it's just a matter of putting the numbers on a spreadsheet that we can see like the other ones.
And hopefully they're already on a spreadsheet.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be there.
I know, I'm just
I get what
saying
you're
from a
saying on
person
the-
in my position, is that leadership comes down with all these things for us to do and to track and to manage, that you're not actually doing your job, you're managing
I hear you, but
spreadsheets.
we haven't done that.
I know,
It's not
I'm
like
just
we've
saying,
done
I
a
don't
lot.
wanna go down that path. That
No,
won't
I
work.
hear you, but that's not what this would be.
Let's just remember, we say it again, let's track this one more thing, let's track this one more thing. I'm not saying we are, I just.
Tracking something would be good though.
Any other comments or questions on any of the policies? All right, then these policies will come back to the regular session for approval, and Tasia's going to make that one correction on policy 9700. Topics for action then, would anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 12A, 1 and 2, B, 1 and C1.
A second.
So motion by Bruce and second by Patty Jo. Are there any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so this last part, once around the table, Marge and Cherie, I don't know, I mean, I know you were here last time for the meeting, and I'm not sure how many meetings you've had an opportunity to view via the link, but this is the portion of the meeting where if there's a question or a topic that you'd like considered on a future agenda, this would be a time to bring it up so that we're aware of it for planning agendas for the future. So, Roxanne, was there anything that, for you, for once around the table?
I just wanted to say that I really enjoy seeing the athletics activities personnel updates. We have another graduate of Somerset High School that's volunteering her time to be an assistant coach. And we've had a few of those, and I just think it's a really great testament to our school district, and I wanted to thank her for volunteering to coach high school softball.
Bruce?
For me.
Just if we could bring back 34, or policy number 3440 and 4440, employee reimbursement for the
Yep.
next month's review. That was the one I referenced last time. I couldn't remember what one it was.
Yep,
Those two.
that is on the list for June.
All right, thanks.
You're
And then,
welcome.
when do we make our recommendation and review of the full-time subs that we have? Remember this year we approved the 3. So when that comes back, I can't remember when we discussed that. Maybe that we can have that at our
meeting.
retreat, but.
Yeah. And,
Last year, we made that decision as a board I know it was in the summertime.
It was in August, I think.
Yeah, I do too.
June, or we got 3 early on. We got 3 people.
Well, I can't remember when we put that.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
just something to discuss again at that
Yep.
meeting is along those full-time subs. Okay. that's all I
Anything
have.
else? No?
Thanks.
Patty Jo?
I would like to suggest that we get some graduation information up on the internet. It has a website, you click on the link that says get graduation information, and it says last updated May 26, 2020. So something up there, so that parents know, because I've had other parents of seniors
I
ask.
don't know if Shannon put her letter up, but she was going to, just on what we know so far,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Was that your update, I guess we saw, where you brought up what we were
I don't know if
doing?
she had anything in there or not.
I didn't, I don't recall that.
So, yeah.
At least the date, it's June 6th, but I know that.
Right, and then you have to dig to find the date, there's no time, so,
I know last week she said she wanted to get a letter out this last week, but she probably got
yeah, we.
busy.
Thanks very much.
Anything else?
Yeah, so on the Facebook, there's a school dance, and it looks like it's sponsored by us, and it's not at Hank's Bar.
Oh,
I feel like we need to
I
do
saw that
something
down
about that.
at the, there's a
because it's not-
disclaimer down at the bottom.
It's
very
very
small.
I know,
Very
I know,
small.
when I saw that, I'm like, when did we start sponsoring things
What
on?
is this?
I'm sorry, I'm wondering.
Hank's Bar is having a middle school dance for 5th to 8th graders, and it says Somerset School District School Dance, Hank's Bar. I think it's $8 for tacos, but it looks like it's a school district thing, and last thing I know, we've never had school dances at bars for middle schoolers.
from 6 to 9 on a school night.
So this was just organized by parents or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
which, if that's what they, but it looks like it's from the district, and
Oh, it does.
it
Can,
is
can
not.
anybody know them?
I don't know. I
Can
don't
anybody ask them just to please make that a little more prominent?
Was that by the bar, or was it by a parent group, or?
Someone sponsoring it, it was on there, I don't know, I don't
know,
know
but they have
but.
Mm-hmm.
some, I think it's between the bar and some photographer and some,
I think just a simple note out to our
DJ.
middle school parents that this is not a sanctioned event.
oh, that would be good.
Yeah,
That would be
something
good.
like that would be great,
Or sponsored, or
yeah.
Yeah,
There
this is not
is
sponsored by us.
a school-sponsored middle school dance. I believe it's on Friday, May 21st.
Right.
Is there?
Yeah.
5th and 6th grade is from like 5:30 to 7:30, and 7th and 8th grade is 7:30 to 9:30. And that one is sponsored by our middle school student council.
Oh,
Yeah, so they are having a dance.
Yep.
I just-
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Anything else, Patty Jo?
That's it?
All right. Katie, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Just welcome. Welcome to the new board members.
Thank you.
I do have something. Can
I was gonna
First
come
time.
back, I was gonna come back
I
to
know
you.
we are doing masks optional for the summer school students, it sounds like.
I'm not sure that decision has been made yet.
It hasn't, but that's, I can say right now, that's what most districts in the MBC are going towards, but who knows what's gonna happen. Right now, I had the county meeting today, you know, the highest number that's shooting up is 17 and 18-year-olds. That's where all the infection is right now. So
I think.
cautiously, you know, as I put out in my piece there, I don't think we should even think about making a decision until closer to the end of the year and see what the numbers are and what have you. And then, again, we're trying to stay consistent with the MBC also.
Yep.
And it's worked, it's served us all very well. Some districts are going through a lot of pain right now with, you know, one side versus the other on this, but so far the MBC schools have been doing pretty good, and we've all tried to stay together on this. So, again, if we come to our last meeting in May and say, hey, this is the direction we want to go, whatever you want to do. But I think everyone's leaning.
You're
towards
talking
it.
for summer school.
Summer school, making them optional, and, you know, a lot of that is outside.
Yeah.
right? So,
I think at our last meeting, because you meet weekly with St. Croix County Health Department, and at our last meeting, didn't you say that the biggest growth in cases at that time was 12 to
it was, but now it's just the data today was 17, 18-year-olds is spiking
that's
up quite a bit
changed.
there, yeah. So, and again, we're doing pretty good
so far?
so far. So let's just keep the status quo for a while.
Sheree, was there anything else you wanted to ask about that, or?
No, we can address it then later in May and see where we're at with it.
Did you have any other items?
Mm-mm.
Mark? No. Okay. We approved the third round of our construction projects at our regular meeting in April. But we didn't talk at all about, and I know that you have said in the past that we have to see what happens with traffic next year. But I'm still concerned about the congestion and the cost of a third lane, and I just don't want to, I want to make sure that that doesn't drop off the radar.
Yeah, and it won't, but right now the traffic's not been bad. I think there's more kids walking and riding bikes, and there's less pickup. So every day I'm looking out my window and I'm monitoring how these buses are getting through, because that's really the telltale on if the buses can make it from here over there. And there's certain days when there's a lot in the afternoon. Drop-off is not a problem because they come at different times. One of the pieces with this parking out here is because of the impervious surfaces, we have to increase the size of that pond down there. And so that's the prices they're getting for us and all that. And when we do that, the plan is to expand it enough that if we have to put a third lane in, we don't have to dig it up again.
Oh, yeah, that was
So
good.
this is on our radar, so.
And at our April 12th meeting, we specifically talked about kids, about the problems that you said were primarily at the high school, about kids. It was after the Supreme Court struck down Governor Ever's mask mandate. And at that time, there was discussion about treating that as a dress code violation. And I was wondering how that's working out.
I haven't heard a word, but I can sure
Okay,
check on it.
thank you.
I think it's calmed down. I actually have one thing.
Okay.
And
You
I-
don't
you
normally
gotta-
answer
You
on
gotta help
camera.
me with his last name, Galen Elmore.
Elmore.
Spoke at the school all day today,
Oh.
and for all morning and afternoon, and it was fantastic. It was really good. It's,
He's on my screensaver.
what's that?
He's on my screensaver.
He did a great job.
Oh, that's
He did a great
awesome.
job, and I think he's got a real good future, in this, but I mean,
Yeah.
the material he covered was very good. Again,
And he is a
not
great
everyone's in
student.
tune to wanting to hear this all day, but
Yeah.
I was there from 9:30 to 11, and I was totally engaged in what he was saying. Then I went back for an hour or so in the afternoon, but you sit in those chairs and it gets a little uncomfortable, so I think a little more motion activity and that would have been better, but he did a great job
That's awesome.
What was he speaking?
on diversity and inclusion
Awesome,
and equity.
awesome.
And his story and relating to, how he felt coming here and the transition he made through his life, because he was always a new person in a new situation and had to adapt.
He was one of the people who emailed the board last fall when we were having discussions about equity and inclusion.
Oh, he was just wonderful.
That's the 2014.
It would have been, I wish that the board had known that he was gonna, because
Yeah.
he said something in his email about speaking.
Yeah.
And I wish we would have known he was here, board members could have attended as well. Is he coming back?
He's here tomorrow working with kids.
Cool.
Could board members observe that if they wish?
You know, I'm not the one who set that up, and I'd hate to say, yes, go ahead and be there, I just don't know what they have planned. I don't know how it's arranged or how it's set up and that, so, you know, I definitely think we could have them come back and, you know, have a session.
Yeah,
I think it would be well
It
worthwhile.
wasn't taped, was it?
I don't know.
okay. Can we, are we done?
Would you
here?
like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would totally like to make a motion.
I second it.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at